What if one of Hollywood's most iconic leading men carried a secret so guarded it took decades to surface? Clark Gable, the silver screen's ultimate alpha.
My darling, you're such a child. You think that by saying I'm sorry, all the past can be corrected.
Was a master of charm and mystique. But behind the tuxedos and tough guy roles, he was living a double life. Hidden in studio memos, coded glances, and long-lost letters is an off-screen affair that rewrites everything we thought we knew about him.
It's me, Hank.
Hello.
Why do you come to a place like this without me?
This isn't just another celebrity scandal. It's a cover-up that stretched across decades and nearly vanished forever. Stick around, because we're breaking open the truth behind the romance that defied Hollywood's golden rules and why it still matters today. Clark Gable didn't just become a star. He was engineered into one. MGM polished his image down to the smallest detail: the rugged mustache, the no-nonsense roles, the media-trained interviews. Behind that image, though, was a man with flaws, contradictions, and a tendency to blur the line between on-screen romance and off-screen intimacy. He was known to charm nearly every woman he worked with, and rumors followed him from set to set. But one affair in particular crossed a line that even MGM couldn't fully erase. Gable might have been Hollywood royalty, but he was still human. And in this case, that humanity came with serious complications. She wasn't just another pretty face. Gable's co-star, whom we'll call Ul, was sharp, ambitious, and unafraid to speak her mind, a rare combination in the studio system. They were cast opposite each other in a major film, and their chemistry was instant. Too instant. From the beginning, their scenes crackled with more than just performance. People on set started whispering about what was happening when the cameras stopped rolling. Elle wasn't just another conquest. She challenged him, intrigued him, maybe even softened him. It was different, and that's exactly why it became dangerous. Because this wasn't just a fling, it was a real connection that MGM couldn't control. Filming a love story with Gable was one thing. Falling into one was another. Their co-stars noticed the shift early. Playful banter turned into lingering touches. Private rehearsals ran late, and entire afternoons disappeared. Gable's trailer became a revolving door, with Elle often slipping in unnoticed. Some crew members claimed they caught them kissing off camera. Others remember arguments that seemed too personal to be scripted. As the shoot progressed, the tension became impossible to ignore. It wasn't just affecting them, it was affecting the production. But MGM wasn't just worried about delays. They were worried about headlines, and they were already preparing damage control. There was one massive complication. Clark Gable was married to Carole Lombard, the queen of screwball comedy and one of the most beloved women in Hollywood. Their marriage was seen as rock solid, a union that humanized the famously aloof Gable. But during the filming of his affair, Lombard was away, working on a separate project and unaware of what was unfolding. Friends of Lombard later hinted that she sensed something was wrong during phone calls, but by the time she returned, the damage was done. Gable's loyalty was split, and the guilt would reportedly haunt him even after tragedy struck a year later. The moment MGM caught wind of the affair, they snapped into action. Executives feared a scandal that could destroy their golden couple's public image and the studio's bottom line. Gable was summoned for a private meeting. Elle was offered a contract amendment and told in no uncertain terms to cool it. Their scenes were restructured. Security around the set increased, and MGM's PR machine went into overdrive, leaking fake stories, planting harmless tabloid sightings, and recentering the narrative on Gable's happy home life. They didn't just want to bury the affair, they wanted to erase it, and for a long time they did. Most on-set affairs fizzle out when the cameras stop. Not this one. Even after filming wrapped, Gable and Elle continued to see each other, quietly and always with caution. They'd met in hotel rooms, arranged secret dinners, and communicated through mutual friends. For nearly a year, they tried to keep the spark alive in the shadows, but the pressure was relentless. Gable's schedule was packed, Elle was being punished with smaller roles, and the risk of exposure kept rising. Eventually, reality intruded. They parted ways, but not by choice. It wasn't heartbreak, it was Hollywood calculation, and it left scars on both of them. In 1942, Carole Lombard was killed in a tragic plane crash while returning from a war bond tour. Gable was devastated. Publicly, he was inconsolable. Privately, friends said he carried deep, unresolved guilt. not just from her death, but from the affair that preceded it. Elle, now cut off from him, reportedly sent a condolence note but never heard back. Some say Gable never fully forgave himself. The timing was cruel. The woman who had captured his heart was gone, and the woman who had briefly held his soul was erased. It became the great emotional fracture of his life, one he never talked about again. For years, the affair was little more than a whispered legend. Then, in the 1990s, a collection of private letters surfaced, discovered in a family estate belonging to Elle's relatives. The letters were raw, handwritten, and unmistakably intimate. Gable's name wasn't always used, but the details were specific. Scenes from a shared movie, nicknames, inside jokes, frustrations with the studio. One line read, "You said we could only be stars on the screen, never in life." It was her heartbreak in ink. Historians authenticated the letters, and suddenly, the affair became more than rumor. It became reality, a secret no longer safe in the dark. Elle never went public with the story. Even after Gable's death, she declined interviews, dodged questions, and left out entire years of her career from her memoir. Some thought she was being discreet. Others believed she was protecting herself, or still protecting him. But silence in Hollywood often means survival. If she had spoken out during her career, she could have been labeled vindictive or unstable. Even decades later, breaking that silence might have meant lawsuits or damage to her legacy. In the end, she let the story fade, knowing the truth was too fragile for public consumption, until someone else finally told it. After the affair, Elle's roles grew smaller. Her name dropped from lead billings to supporting credits. One director admitted she was too emotional for their liking, a phrase often used to sideline women in the industry. Friends say she fell into a deep depression and nearly walked away from acting altogether. The affair didn't just break her heart, it broke her trajectory. While Gable moved on to other films and eventually remarried, Elle drifted quietly through B pictures and stage roles. Her talent never disappeared. But in Hollywood, the wrong romance could still cost a woman everything, even if the man walked away unscathed. Gable's hidden romance isn't an isolated case. It's a prime example of how the old studio system worked. These weren't just entertainment companies, they were surveillance states. Stars had no privacy, no autonomy, and no room to make personal mistakes. Contracts included morality clauses. Private detectives were hired to tail actors. Scandals were buried, deals were cut, and lives were rearranged for the sake of image. Gable's affair was a real love story, but it became a case study in how far studios would go to preserve the illusion. It wasn't about truth, it was about control. And for decades, they had it. Today, Clark Gable is remembered as a cinematic legend. His name is etched in history, his films still adored. But the fuller picture, the man behind the myth, is finally starting to emerge. His hidden affair doesn't tarnish his legacy, but it humanizes it. It reminds us that even icons make mistakes, fall in love, and get hurt. And for the woman he loved, it's a posthumous vindication. Her silence wasn't weakness, it was resilience. The truth didn't stay buried forever. And now, with this story out in the open, we can finally see both of them, not just as stars, but as real people. Clark Gable's secret affair isn't just another Hollywood rumor. It's a buried truth that reveals how fame, power, and love collide behind the curtain. This story shows how far studios would go to protect their stars, and what it cost the people caught in the middle. If you were surprised, moved, or even a little haunted by what you learned today, don't let it end here. Like, comment, and subscribe to Silver Screen Secrets, where we bring real Hollywood history to light, one untold story at a time.